What's up, guys? Live from the Queen Studio, makeshift studio. It's been a week since I've uploaded a podcast episode, so I felt like I owed you guys one. I've just been handling some business, so this episode's gonna be, I don't know. We'll talk a little bit about. I definitely want to talk about the whole Biden situation. I definitely want to talk about uh, the Disinformation Oversight Committee, and we'll talk a little bit about the economy, what's going on, and we'll talk some about the debt ceiling, and I'll try to break down a great Twitter thread on it, and yeah, we'll go from there. So let's start off with the news of the day. First off, I know the Santos guy, the congressman, is also in trouble for bribes and violations and whatnot. And look, of course, that's due to any government official that's abusing power. It should make news. But you got the president of the United States, man, and accepting bribes, allegedly, and is nowhere to be found other than Fox News in a sense. And if you look at the other the CNNs and the MSNBCs and all that, it's like freaking buried, and it's not even conspiratorial anymore. It's right out in the open. Is they are definitely rooting for one side and not the other, which is you know it's just a shame, bro, because the reality is you would want your news media to be objective, right? Of course there's always going to be opinions. I don't think it's fair to deliver right down the middle. I think what it is you should try your best possible to give both sides. But the fact that this is not on the front page, or at least the second story behind Santos, it should be the first. He's the president. It's crazy. So what is the story alleging? It's just basically, it's pay for play, right? And we kind of already knew this about Biden when it was like, you know, when he was vice president, he did have the quid pro quo, right, for Ukraine in particular. He was on videotape, saying, "I'm going to withhold funds unless you fire one of the government officials," and they did it, and nothing happened. So he got a little bit more and more brazen, and this is speculation on my part, but I remember there being like government contracts in Iraq awarded, and the Biden family has something to do with that. Now that's not fact checked. I'm not, I just remember seeing that, and I was like, that's just very interesting. But this is clear as day, where you had the president's son set up a bunch of shell companies, and you have direct payments coming in. Now, of course, they still have to investigate it. But what bugs me is it's not main news saying, hey, it's going to get investigated, right? Because when it came to Trump, it was like anything that wasn't proven yet, it was bam, headline like it was already factual, right? So it's like, where's that balance at? I'm very curious to see how this, plays out. And yeah, I mean, by the way, Trump killed that town hall. I don't know if you guys watched it. It was freaking very entertaining. And yeah, I'm kind of over apologizing for him. Like I said, I felt like maybe it was best for the country if he didn't rerun or whatever, just because people are so salty. He's like a lightning rod, right? But the reality is like he is the only one that's going to be able to check these guys, bro, because the Dems are the type right now, or the Democratic leadership that's in power right now, is they're going to try to steamroll you, and the only chance you got is if you actually stand up for yourself and say, "Hey, hell no, bro, that's not right." And out of all the candidates, I mean, I like DeSantis, right? Obviously, I hope Tucker runs. I don't think he's going to run though. I think he's focused on his media side. So out of all of them, even Nikki Haley, all of them are coming out. Unless someone really tough emerges, I feel like Trump's going to be that guy. I really do, and. He got my vote. I'm not ashamed or scared to say it. I think he's gonna get us back on track. And it's funny because economically, you know, it's kind of gonna work out in his favor, because right when he's gonna take office, we should be coming out of the recession anyways, and we're gonna need to lower rates and get things going again. So I think everything's gonna play out right in his favor. And you know, I, but we'll see. We'll see. And it's going to be a very interesting next 18 months, and which leads me to the disinformation, right? So like basically they tried this and it got a lot of backlash, and it stopped, and now they came back with it. And we're still learning the details as more and more details come out. Trust me, I will be posting about it. But isn't it funny that they launched this, disinformation and office right when the Biden stories are coming out, right? And right around the time where the election cycle is about to be heating up. Like this summer is going to be the start of the full blown election cycle, right? Going into next year. Then the next summer is really going to be the presidential, and then we got what we got. And I mean, it's hard for me to sit back and be like, holy shit, this is not a coincidence. And you know, look, I'm going to be fair here, right? I'm going to try to be objective here. Do we need something that says this? I mean, okay, let's even take a step further back. Let's get out of the just strictly the American politics of it. Let's look at it from a nation standpoint. We, man, how do I say this with looking at it like in a good spin? It's like I have friends that are in the intelligence agency. Okay, I trust those guys with my life. They are good, hardworking people that love this country, and they do genuinely want good for the nation. They're protecting us. They're ready. They're willing to give their lives for us, right? And the one thing is when they get intel from like all types of sources, they make sure it's trusted. They make sure it's verified. They bring it up to the right people. It's up to the people to make the right decision. And to me, it's kind of like a two negatives make a positive, right? Follow me on this. So like, if you have the intelligence community now and they say, hey, Russia's interfering with our election, and there's actual proof or whatever, because we have this oversight committee now and we feel like it's really geared one way, right? It's geared towards the Democratic Party. Even if what Russia's doing is legit and they're interfering, majority of the country is going to think, no, it's bullshit. You guys are just saying that because whatever. See, so it's a double negative made a positive. Like, this is just me thinking out loud, right? I'm talking to you like I would talk to a buddy, just sharing my thoughts. In my opinion, it's almost better to just rely on the intelligence community and say, hey, look, this is disinformation or this is misinformation. Here's why. And then we, as regular citizens, decide like, oh, okay, that could be, hey, we found, these IP addresses in Moscow linked to these Facebook accounts posting these things, which are very geared towards this side. Here it is, the public, and let everybody dissect that information, right? And let every news outlet look at it and let them communicate how things should work. When you put this buffer in between, of course we're going to be skeptical because this government has never been trustworthy, at least not for the last 20 years. It's been losing our trust. Me coming into adolescence and, when I was a young, very in my adolescence and, during 9/11, I was 10 years old. Oh, I was turning 11, right? And as I got older and we started, I got, freaking brain develop. I started thinking for myself. I started getting involved in politics. I was like, hey, this shit matters. This is the country I live in. What these guys are bringing down is going to make a difference in my life. Maybe I should pay attention. And then we start peeling back the onion of the Patriot Act. That was my first sign of like, oh shit. And then you start looking at all the stuff that they've done. And, you look at the JFK assassination and how he wanted to destroy the CIA, how the CIA presented him, with a plan to attack Americans on their own soil. This is a real truth. There's a plan. They wanted to cause a coup, in a sense, here to get us in a war with Cuba. And he said, hell no, right? All these things, plus all, the Operation the Mockingbird and Midnight Climax and these things that they have done that are now being declassified, and it's proven that they lie to us, right? They do manipulate the truth. The Gulf of Tonkin, right? Like all these types of things. It doesn't, like, I don't trust the government 100%. I don't. And I don't think anybody should. I don't think you should trust anybody. What's the Air Force motto was, trust but verify. Right? And then bringing back to my point, that buffer that we have now, instead of it going from, hey, here's just one already trusted agency. Hey, this is everything we have. Here you go, news outlets. Here you go, public. You guys can also, you're smart enough to also decide for yourself. Right? We can ask questions like, how do you know it was that IP address? How do you, whatever. You put that buffer in between, and then they're going to present it to you that it's like it's fact. And then if they try to silence voices that question it, that's when shit gets tricky. And the reason why this is so important, right, is this: you literally are giving this buffer state or this disinformation oversight, whatever you want to call it, right? You're giving them the authority to pretty much rewrite history. Let me explain. Excuse me. So I'm going to rephrase that because I'm probably going to clip this right now. I feel like this disinformation board, sorry, got a text coming in. This disinformation board or this disinformation committee, we're giving them the right to rewrite history. Okay, so what do I mean by that? So imagine it's been 10 years into the future. It's 2032, and we go back and we say that, hey, during COVID, you guys denied us the ability to go on to public places without taking the COVID vaccine. You guys suppressed information and kept us in a pandemic longer than probably that we needed to be, right? All of a sudden, that disinformation board could come out and say, nope, that's wrong. Here you go, here you go, here you go. This is why. Now that's been lied about now, right? Like they could say, no, we were right. That never happened. And how are you supposed to know? Because no one can challenge it because online they'll mute you. They'll just ban you. Won't give you a conversation, and then you're done. Then what do? You gave them the ability to rewrite history in a sense, and you're giving them ultimate control over what we say. And so, look, that's a very dystopian way to look at it. I don't want to think that negative, but I always try to look at the most extreme, and then I try to peel it back, and I keep that in the back of my hand or back of my mind. Like, okay, if that's what can we do to not even to get that off the table? What we could do is just allow free speech to go through. And if what I'm saying is true and I'm presenting you with facts and you don't have facts and it's all emotion, I'm going to win. That's how it happens, right? That's how a regular society would be able to function. And it scares the hell out of me that we're going to have this much oversight over us, right? That's the whole point of it, is we're supposed to be able to say what we want, how we feel, and we should be challenged back and say, hey, I think you're wrong because X, Y, Z. Right? That's how a regular functioning society should work. And my fear is it's not going to be there. It's going to be like, no, this is the truth, period. Don't ask any questions. And when it gets to that, that's probably not a country I want to live in. That's not a society I want to be a part of. And that's the shit that scares me. And I don't know if you guys feel the same way about it, but that's just my thinking, especially, very rarely do people give up power. Very rarely. Once you give it to them, it's hard to take it back. It's just like anything else, like its benefits, everything else. Once you give somebody power, you think they're ever going to repeal the Patriot Act? Probably not, right? So I'm very reluctant for change. That's the whole point of conservatism, is just move slow. We're not saying that we can't be, progressing along. Of course you're going to progress along. Of course you're going to adapt to new ideas and new things. But it doesn't mean we have to change everything overnight right away. Let's slow down. That's all we're saying, is just pause on this a little bit. Let's talk this through. Let's not shove something down our throats that's going to ultimately be bad, or we don't know. Let's do some case studies on this. Like how are we going to roll this out? Don't just give somebody authority to go do it until we've all voted on it. We had a discussion about it. Now, if we bring it to a vote and it's on a ballot and we all agree, well, that's the price that we all have to pay to be a part of a society. And okay, that's okay with me. That's fine. But just getting something shoved down our throats, pause. But you get what I'm saying? It's just not, it's not really appealing to me, man. And it really is worrisome. The Biden family news is big, but just as big is this committee. And I hope that we actually try to bring this more into the public light and it becomes a national thing. Because, and what I meant on my post when I said it's like only tech can save us, is eventually we're going to need some form of way to communicate that is unfiltered, right? We need a blockchain. We need something, because there shouldn't be a filter. Like me right now, I'm talking. I'm giving you my honest and genuine opinion. Now, you might hate me. You might not like me. You might say this guy's an idiot. That's fine. You are entitled to that opinion. And I will never tell you you're not entitled to call me a dummy. That's fine. That's okay. We could disagree. That doesn't mean that we have to, you have to shut me down or I have to shut you down, right? It should be, okay, you think I'm dumb? Why do you think I'm dumb? Which point did I say that you disagreed with and why? Maybe I am. Maybe I need to get better at, that weakness. Or maybe, oh, dude, you're saying this, this, and this. Did you think about this? And I'll be, oh, shit, you know what? Dude, you're right. I didn't even think about that. I was so blinded by one way. Thanks for sharing that. I'm probably going to change my opinion on things now, right? That's how a normal freaking discourse should work. It shouldn't be authoritarian straight down. And I don't know, man. It just, like I said, I don't want to fear monger, but I do like to look at the extremes and say, well, could it get there? And, because, he who should not be named, when he started coming into power, people were like, hey, he's saying a bunch of stuff about the Jews. Could this get to the extreme? And I'm not comparing this to that. I'm just saying it's healthy to look at what's the worst that could happen and what do you think the steps would be to get there and what should we be aware of. If those little steps start going that way, we should stop it and change course. It's not crazy to think like that. That's just free thinking, right? Like that's just, I think the same way when I think about buying a real estate property. I think, what's the absolute worst that could happen? Like the worst thing that could happen. You could, your roof could cave in right away and your electrical shot and your plumbing shot. Or you find mold, right? Like that's the absolute worst. Okay, is there anything we could do to stop those things from happening? What can we, that's just naturally how my brain thinks. I don't think cynically like just always bad. I'm always trying to be risk adverse. So I view life with the most risk and I say, okay, what's the best bets I can make and what's the best thing I can do to reduce that risk? Because the more risk I reduce, the higher chance of success in anything you're gonna have. I don't know. I'm sorry if you don't think that way, but that's just how my brain naturally processes damn near everything in my life. I don't know why. That's me, right? And so when I'm bringing you these opinions, I just need you to understand that's the mindset that I have, right? Anyways, okay, so we'll move on. Of course, we got Tucker. He's he's going to start his own thing on Twitter, and we'll discuss that for a little bit. I think Twitter is going to be a very profitable company in the next few years. There's some issues with the whole Substack, and if you're not familiar with Substack, it was, there's a real journalists in the world that actually do real job and don't just give biased opinions. They actually put shit together, and that's the fun of living in Queens right there, right? Anyways, what was happening was these journalists needed to make money, so they use Substack for a subscription. It was an external link. I'm pretty sure Twitter is either trying to start their own version of Substack or try to acquire Substack, so they block those links from going out. But, excuse me, just recently, I was on it like last week, I was scrolling through, and it was this one gentleman uploaded a longer video form like this. It got massive views, it got massive attention, and he did a little breakdown on it. And he said, hey, eventually, once Twitter starts investing a little bit more into their infrastructure, they could be one of the biggest podcasting platforms in the world. And I think with, Elon taking over and with everything else that's going on, having a true space to actually be free. Like, there's shit that I say on Twitter that I will never have the balls to say on Instagram because I worked really hard to try to build this up. If it goes away, it goes away. It is what it is. What can I do, right? But I'm cognizant of the things that I say. I'm not going to, try to shoot myself in the foot, if I don't need to, right? And so on Twitter, I feel a little bit more free to express my opinion even more. And I don't feel safe enough to say that on Instagram. I don't. And it's not nothing bad. It's not like I'm, saying, invoking violence or hate or anything like that. But it's just like, I'll say stuff when I see a video. I'm like, that's dumb. I feel comfortable saying that, like, hey, I don't agree with this or whatever, right? And I'm not fearful of a backlash or someone reporting me and then trying to get me, strikes against me. And I'm like, oh my God, they got to appeal it, right? So it's like, it became like, Facebook and all these other places are just PC. Twitter is actually where you can speak your mind. And I feel like once Twitter figures out a way to get people on a platform to pay for people that are actually, someone like me, right, that's actually takes the time to put all this information together, deliver it. And, if obviously I don't care for getting, my whole goal here isn't to get paid and become, an influencer. It's to build connections and grow, privately, right? But for other people that this is what they love to do, I would encourage them to start building on Twitter, because as long as Elon controls it and he owns it, I don't think you're going to be kicked off. And I hope to God he never, loses majority stake, or when he relists and it goes public, he controls the voting rights, right? Because it is important for us to have a spot where we are able to say what we want to say. And if we're wrong, we should be called out for it. That's all we're saying. I'm not saying, you know, you should be able to say wild stuff and not be called out for it. You need to be able to have that discord, but you should have the ability to say what you want to say. We should be able to judge you for your actions, not for anything else, right? And with Tucker going on there, I'm very interested to see how the rollout happens. Is he going to do like, hey, I'm going to give like free 30 minutes to watch the next 30 minutes every night? Or I don't know. You're going to have to pay this. Are we going to, I don't know. Let's see how that whole thing pans out, right? And something's got to be done. So it's either going to be Twitter or it's going to be, another, like I said, blockchain type technology that allows us to be able to say what we want, right? And with that, for Twitter going to the next level, because it's called x.com still, right? Because the original, thing. I do think that eventually Twitter has the infrastructure to be a bank. It really does. I mean, I could see them easily go out and either acquire something like SoFi and integrate it and build a crypto flat platform, build a brokerage, have bills and payments and everything done through the Twitter platform, and have subscription services through the Twitter platform, have full-blown real journalists be on Twitter, get paid for their time. And I think that's what's going to slowly, it's like the media is going to suffer a death by 1,000 cuts, because, guys like me and you that are listening, you're listening to this, you're probably a free thinker. You're like, hey, I'm going to give this, you're listening to this, you're like, hey, I'm going to give this Joe Hall guy a chance, unless you're like, just one of my friends supporting me, which shout out to you guys though. But, if, you find someone that you trust, they're pulling the like counterpoints or whatever that place is called by Sagar and them, or even like someone like Tim Pool or those guys, right? And you are willing to pay them $5 or $10 a month, and they get to do what they love, which is report the news, get the opinion, do it for you, and then you trust them. I think that's going to be the future of media, unless the government gets involved and shuts Twitter down, because they're like, wait a minute, we want everything central and not decentral. And maybe that's the biggest push. Maybe that's the biggest push for the disinformation thing, is because they know that they're ultimately losing control. So they want to stop these things. They want to keep everything funneled, because when you keep everything funneled and you have like the big talking heads, you could pass information in, just like Operation Mockingbird. But then if you have a legion and an army of these independent journalists on Twitter and on Substack and a bunch of these other areas, and you got, 5,000 followers here listening to this guy, 5,000 here, it's all independent thought, things are being shared. And plus, nobody just follows one person, right? If you really care to be informed, you're probably going to follow about 3 or 4 people. It's $20. It's not the end of the world. $20, guys, is not going to kill you, right? You follow 3 or 4 guys, you get 4 different types of information. Maybe you follow a crazy leftist just because you're like, I just want to keep an eye on what the hell's going on that side. And then you follow a crazy right-wing person. You're like, let me see what's going on that side. And then you follow 2 guys that are right down the middle. They're just like chill. And you're like, okay, I'm going to listen to these guys more, but hey, I'll pay for this premium content here once a month. I'll check it out. And then you get a little bit of everything, right? That, I think, might be the future. But then the biggest thing is what do the Americans really want? It's not really about corporate America or anything. It's really on you, the viewer. It's really on you, the citizen. If you don't give a shit, then journalism does die and control does happen. You have to give a shit. You have to pay somewhat of attention, right? Like, you've got to be able to dedicate at least 30 minutes out of your busy day to catch up on the news, right? Like, to stay informed, or at least a couple hours a week, somewhere when you're using the restroom, or you're on your commute to work, if you're taking a train, or you're carpooling, or maybe on your lunch break. You just take that time and say, let me just see what's going on in the world, or let me catch up on this week, and let me see who's the source I trust. You have to give a damn. And if you don't give a shit, and you're more worried about what's going on in, the American culture, like the rappers, or what's the hottest movie, or the celebrity, and you devote your time to that, then the people that really run shit are just going to continue to run shit, and they're going to be unchecked, because you're not going to be a educated, informed voter. And so when voting time comes, they don't owe you shit. You're probably not even going to vote. So then you shouldn't complain about the life that you have, or, the rules that are in place. You have to give a shit, and you have to pay attention in order for you to be able to implement change. And that's why it's important, because you should know what's going on in your community, in your state, and in your country. And if you don't care, then why should anybody else care, right? Like, it's it's really on us, right? If we really cared about being informed, then we're going to go out, we're going to find people that we trust, that we like. We're going to support them by paying them $5 or $10 or whatever it is. Let them do the work. And we're going to stay on top of it, as consume the content however we can, stay informed. So when it comes for voting time, we make the right decision. So that's that. Let's see what else. I guess we could talk a little bit about let me scroll down and see. Okay, I guess let's talk about the debt ceiling crisis a little bit right now. And there is a lot here in this thread to talk about. I read this thing today, but I'll give you guys I'll try to give you guys the highlights of what's going to happen, and basically Congress has already spent this money. Okay, so it's not like we have reached the max of what we've spent already. Okay, let me rephrase this. How am I trying to say this? When Congress passes a bunch of bills and it goes up to Senate, President signs it, whatever, we enact them into law, right? We're saying that, hey, we're going to spend this money, right? It needs to go on the book. And that's why the debt ceiling keeps going up, because the shit that we passed last year, right, it needs to start getting paid for now. The invoices start coming in. Well, every so often, whenever I forget, it's usually every 6 months or a year or whenever it is, once that debt ceiling hits, is like that was the limit, right? Like right now, if we approve it for, let's say we raise the debt like $2 trillion, okay, the $2 trillion will go out and we'll spend it. But the bills that we keep passing keep spending more. So the next year we're going to be, needing to raise it even more, right? There's no real cuts, right? It's like the best way I can explain it is like if you've paid for a credit card on let's say you booked a honeymoon or you booked a trip for July of 2023, and right now it's May of 2023, right? And you put it on the little pause thing, like, hey, the payment installments, right? And so it's paid, and then or booked. It's already pre-booked, right, on Expedia or whatever. And sometimes it gives you a little bit of time to pay, and it's like, hey, the payment's due May 31st for your trip in July. Like, you've already told your wife, you've already told your significant other, your friends, whatever, we're going on this trip in July, right? And your credit card right now is maxed out, right? And the payment's due on the 31st of May. And today is what? Today is the 11th of May. So at the end of this month, that payment for that trip is going to do. You already promised everybody. You guys all negotiated and passed it. Like, we're going to take the trip. All right, it's on Joe Hall's card. I got it. And I go and book it. And then Expedia says, hey, your trip is booked. Your final payment is due May 31st because you're taking the trip in July, but it's due May 31st. Joe Hall's credit card's maxed. So Joe Hall's now trying to call the credit card company and saying, yo, bro, come on, let me get a little bit of that credit extension. And in this sense, who's the credit extension? The credit extension of the government is the house. It's like your think about like your mom and dad. Let's reverse the credit card. Instead of your credit card, you're running to mommy and daddy, and you have mom and you have dad, and then you have like grandma or grandpa at the top. They're the ones that you say, okay, finally, right? The Indian culture, right? So the mom's gonna tell the dad, hey, we'll let Parm go, or we'll let Parm and his buddies go to this trip, but we gotta say no more planning these trips, no more trips. And then the dad's gonna say, let Parm plan the trips, extend his credit, who cares? And Grandpa up top, which is like the president, Grandpa Joe, is just like, whatever you guys decide, I guess I'll pass. I want it to pass because I want to keep the good times going. You want to keep the party going, right? The economy going. Parm to take his trip, right? And that's where we're at, And it's funny because it really doesn't matter, because if it was a Republican president, right now the Democrats will be saying we need to cut. It's just a political theater back and forth. The core problem here is we're spending money that we don't really have. Right? I shouldn't be taking that freaking trip. I should not be taking that trip to Cabo or wherever the hell I'm going. My credit card's maxed. We have already hit our spending it, but we still want to extend it and spend more. And eventually it is going to be very painful for this country. And, we could get into it. Maybe the currency is going to go to zero. I don't know. Probably. The way it spends like this. Yeah, probably. But when is that going to happen? I don't know. It's like the book I read way back, The Ascent of Money, and it talked about, collapse of currencies over since the beginning of time. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes decades and decades and decades. You could go hundreds of years without the currency collapsing. So, do I think we're anywhere close? No, I think we could push the limit to like probably 250, 300% of GDP, and we're very close to 200 GDP by the end of the year, meaning whatever our gross domestic product is, we could go probably 3 times that before the currency finally collapses. So we still have a very long runway. We can still right the ship. But the thing is who wants to turn around and say, guys, sorry, the trip to Cabo is canceled? Nobody wants to say that, right? Everybody wants the good times to continue. Nobody wants to do the responsible thing. And it's that's just turned into, unfortunately, American culture. And I don't know, what can we do? What can we say? We need real responsibility, but it's going to come with real pain. And it's very clear as day, nobody wants to see pain. And, that's going to segue into my couple of my last segments here, which is, who's really suffering right now in this recession? It's not regular people like me and you yet. It's really not. I know you can say what you want, but it's really not yet. Not yet. Right now, who's suffering the most is Wall Street. Wall Street's throwing like a little temper tantrum right now. They hate it. They want the free ride to keep going because they want more money in the system so they can put more rollies on, buy more yachts, and do more things, right? People like me and you, we're still waking up, going to work, baby. We're still buying the Starbucks coffee and going about our day and doing the best we can. Things are getting a little bit tight, but we're still pushing through. Wall Street, on the other hand, is being decimated. Their earnings are being cut. Everything's being destroyed. They're the ones that are going through like the real financial recession right now, right? For the real economy, it hasn't hit us quite yet. And I don't know if it will. We'll find out in time. These things are hard to predict. We'll see how much we could bear, right? And that leads me one more time to, I want to wrap up about the banking crisis, because that's really the underlying problem right now, right? We have this political stuff that we talked about going on and cultural stuff going on, and we talked about the debt crisis going on and all that, but still the biggest oh my god in the room is the banking crisis. And I just want to reiterate and re-explain a little bit, and I don't want to make it too complicated, and I'm sorry if anything I've said so far has been too complicated to follow. I don't know, I'm dumb sometimes. I love analogies, but even my wife says sometimes, dude, you give too many analogies, just go to the point. I'm like, shit, I want to oversimplify as much as I can, or I think I do, then end up complicating it. I don't know. Anyways, what has happened right now in the banking system is this. Let's use Silicon Valley Bank as an example. Silicon Valley Bank had a shit ton of money. What they did with that money is they went out and they bought bonds. They bought 10-year government bonds. Those are usually safe, but nobody in their risk department decided to adjust that risk for just in case interest rates went up, right? So what happened is a way the government bond works is, we'll use easy numbers. Let's say all these customers deposited money and I had an extra $1 million, right, after loans or whatever. I take that $1 million and I go buy a 10-year government bond. The government bond is guaranteed. It means 10 years from today, I will get, all my money back, plus all the money I made from the interest rate that the government is going to pay me. The problem is I locked in that at like 2%, right? So I'm earning 2% on $1 million, which is about 20 racks a year, right? I'm going to earn like 200,000 a year, right? Because 20 times 5 is 100, and then double that 10 years, right? 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 100, 200,000. I'm going to earn that $200,000 over the course of 10 years. Well, what happened was, obviously interest rates went through the fucking roof. And bonds have an inverse to interest rates, right? When interest rates shoot up, the paper value of the bond goes down. Why? Because why the fuck would I hold this bond that's only going to pay me 200 racks? I'll sell it now, and I'll go buy a government bond that's paying me freaking 4%. I'm paying me double, right? So on the books, it's showing that my $1 million bond value went down to like $500,000. But it's still worth $1 million, right? Because as long as I hold it for the next 10 years, I'm going to get my $1 million back at the end, and I'm going to make my 200. But just on my books, it looks really fucking bad, because the actual value today, if I went to go sell it today, is $500,000, not $1 million. When that information started leaking, motherfuckers started panicking. And they were like, oh shit, they're insolvent. Yank, they pulled out. And then people started knocking. Hey, give me my money back. Give me my money back. They just, boom, instantly, right? Wire transfer, wire transfer. The bank needs the fucking money on hand. So what were they forced to do? They were forced to start selling those bonds at a massive fucking loss. So now instead of having $1 million, they only had 500,000. They're like, fuck. All we needed was just to hold it. We were good. But they should have managed risk, meaning they should have took that 20 racks they were making a year and spent maybe even fucking 10 racks of it and bought some, intermediate options that said, hey, God forbid, but these interest rates spike up, we're secure, and the difference, right? The difference, that's insurance, we'll make back. They're like, fuck it. Interest rates are never going to go up. That's probably what they were thinking, right? And when rates did shoot up, the value went down. People started panicking. They started pulling money out. To make those fuckers whole, they ended up having to sell the bonds at a fucking loss. So that's what's been going on in the banking. And then on top of that, the other stack on that, it was a double, animal style, is what's happening is now we have all of these commercial loans that are coming to reality. Well, what does that mean, coming to reality? It means when people were buying, banks were lending, they were lending at like 2 or 3%. So when you looked at a real estate deal, yeah, of course, shit made sense when your payments were at 2%. Way real estate works is every 3, 5, and 7 years, you have to refinance. Those loans are now coming due. What due means you just have to kind of refinance that. So the payments are going like more than double. They're going triple, right? In some cases, most cases is double for sure. Some cases it's tripling. Well, those deals that these people bought, it doesn't make sense when the payment triples or doubles. They should have never bought it at that price anyways. They way overpaid. And now they can't afford to make payments. So those people have two options. They either put more money of their own money in, or they walk away from the bank. Sorry, bitches, not my fault. What's happening is a lot of people are saying, sorry, bitches, not my fault. So that's more losses in the banks now, right? And that's putting even more pressure on them. And that's why you're seeing these banks fold. And the reality is we don't know how many other banks are naked. And it was a crazy stat. Before the financial crisis of '08, there was like 10,000 banks other than, the big four, right? Wells Fargo, Citi, Bank of America, and JP Morgan. There was a bunch of other. Now there's like less than 5,000, I know for sure. It's like 4,000 something. And when this whole thing is done, you're probably going to have less than 4,000 banks. And that's another worrisome thing is all the power, all the money trickles up to a select few organizations. And that becomes a problem because now they dictate what you can do and can't do in life. And if they start adding policies in, like, we don't like what you tweeted, we're not going to give you a right credit score, we're going to do whatever, where the hell are you going to turn? That's why I'm looking more towards crypto or whatever. Okay, fuck it. Stay back on script here, not to get off on a tangent. Sorry. That's exactly what's been going on. And there's still a whole lot of ugly to pull back, guys. There's, $3 trillion and some crazy shit like that still needs to be refinanced in the next couple of years. We don't know how many of those loans are dirty or bad or whatever the fuck you want to call it. Even if it's only $1 trillion that's bad, a third of those loans that are bad, that's still $1 trillion in losses that we have to deal with. So what the hell does that mean to me and you? That just means if I'm taking, think of you as like you're a boxer and you're the bank and you're just taking L, boom, 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 boom. You're just getting knocked, right? Chances are the next morning you're probably not going to work or you're probably not doing whatever. So what the fuck does that mean, Joe? That means I'm not fucking lending out any more money because I just got my fucking ass kicked. I'm not giving you anything else. So when you come to me and you want to go, open your restaurant or you want to open another, small business, I'm going to be like, sorry, bro, I just got my ass beat. I'm going to take a chill pill. I'm really going to pull back. So then what happens is that starts trickling down to everybody else, right? Small business can't get access to capital. They can't expand. They can't add more jobs. That's like where the contraction really happens. And then it takes a while until we, bring everything down, everything gets settled, the books get kind of cleaned up. We go through this period of pain and then we finally cut rates. Banks will slowly start lending again and then things will start going up again. So the answer is like, when's everything going to fall? It doesn't happen overnight, guys. There's going to be just weeks. It happens over weeks, right? This week or like tomorrow, the debt ceiling, the stock market might drop 2 or 3%. and it probably will stay there. And then, like, the week after it drops another percent, then it goes up a half, and then it'll drop more, then it'll drop more, then it'll drop more. And a year from today, you're going to be like, holy fuck, I remember when that stock was like that. Or you'll say, hey, holy shit, I remember when that apartment complex was selling for 2 million, now it just sold for 1.5. Oh shit, things are happening. What it means for you is you just have to pay attention to you. Don't listen to the noise. If you see a good deal that makes sense to you, you're going to do the deal. It has nothing to do with, oh, I'm going to figure out when the bottom is. You're never going to find the bottom. There is no such thing as, oh, this is the bottom. There's not a fucking flag that says it. You just buy shit when it makes sense for you. And you know, okay, I got as many of my bases covered as I can. I'm not buying this like a dummy and just saying, I hope I can make the payment in 6 months from now. No, you're going to say, hey, I'm buying this deal. I'm very comfortable with this payment. I got a little bit of money on the side in case some crazy shit happens. Let's get into business now. Let's do this thing. And then over time, shit's gonna work out. You don't want to buy something when you're like, fuck, man, I don't know. I mean, if rates go a little bit higher, I don't know if I can afford this deal, or I got no money left over if shit goes south. If something happens, I'm fucked, right? And the same thing's gonna go for stocks. Like, you're gonna buy shit that you believe in, and when you look at something, you say, huh, that's a very good company. I believe it's going to be around for the next couple of decades. I think they're going to do more in revenue in the next decade than they are in the previous decade. And it's trading way low. And I like the valuation. I like the brand. I'll buy a little bit. And that's just how things are going to be done. Not just now, but forever in time, right? And the reality is we kind of need this little bit of a reset. We need a little bit of a deflationary period because shit has been through the roof. And you can't find a good balance. Like, I mean, think about even construction right now, right? Like, either land prices are going to have to come down, or construction costs are going to have to come down, or rents are going to have to go through the roof. Well, rents are not going to go through the roof. They're already pretty high as far as it is. You can't get anybody to work, so labor's not going to go. So actual land, dirt land values are going to have to come down in order for construction costs on any types of projects to really make sense right now, right? And we've been seeing this since like July of this last year. Like, even in the Dallas market, we're looking around and we're like, well, fucking nothing makes sense to build. Why would we build, right? And it was across the goddamn country. Like, I'm looking at shit, for the reconstruction costs of shit that I bought. I bought buildings for, like a $250,000, like a house for a $250,000, and the reconstruction on it is like 400. I'm like, how the fuck does that make sense, right? And so there's been this disconnect. We need something to balance out and even out, right? And that's just going to happen over time. It's not going to happen overnight. You got to be patient. You got to be vigilant. And you should make a list of companies that you like. If you're in the stock market, you should have a list of 10 companies you really like, get to know them really, really well, understand them, and be like, at this evaluation, I love this company. And just kind of wait till he gets close to that, right? If you're in your local market, if you're in the real estate game, you should make a list of, where the rents are, what's been posted in your area using just, Redfin and Zillow and all that. And then you're going to be able to see what things are kind of selling for. Call them. Call the agent. Oh, okay, it's under contract. Oh, that's great. Oh, hey, okay, this is available still. Oh, great, I'll save your number. Call them fucking 2 months later. Hey, I was just calling about that. Oh, it's sold. Hey, do you know how much it sold for? Oh, really? It sold for that? Okay, great. 2 months later. Hey, how much is this? Oh, really? It went down that. This apartment complex sold for $1 million. 2 months later, this one sold for like 900. Oh shit's gone down a little bit. Does that make sense for me to jump into this market now? I don't fucking know. You have to answer that yourself. That's you doing the work. You still got to put in the work, is what I'm trying to say, right? But that's how things are going to happen. You're not going to wake up one day and fucking everything's going to drop 50% and you're going to be like, ha 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 ha. It doesn't work that way, right? Things are going to slowly progress, but we're smart enough to realize there's so much negative ahead of us that things are going to get a little bit lower. You just need to get it low enough to where it's comfortable for you. And if you're that type of person that's like, no, it needs to go lower. No, it needs to go lower. You're never going to do anything, dog. I'm going to call you out on your shit. You're probably never going to do anything. So stop wasting everyone's time and asking questions, right? Because you should know in your head when you think is a good price. You should know in your head what's a good rate of return for you. And if it's right there in front of you, you like the property, you like the deal, or you like the stock, you like the price the stock's at, and you still don't want to pull the trigger, there's no fucking price that you're going to be able to pull the trigger because it's not going to go to zero. You're not going to get it for fucking free. That's not going to happen, right? So you also got to have the courage to be able to jump in, right? But you should do your own homework first and realize what is the price point that you want to jump in. And no one can answer that for you. You have to answer that for yourself. All right, fuck, I said a lot of shit. I don't know. hopefully this was insightful, entertaining. Hopefully you guys liked it. I don't know. If you guys did, listen, I really appreciate you guys for watching. Share it with a freaking friend. And dude, shoot me a DM, man. Let me know what you guys think of the pod, if you guys like it. And help me out by you guys sharing it. And definitely, if I'm uploading it on Spotify, if you guys could, whatchamacallit, if you guys could, rate the podcast, give it 5 stars, be like, Joel's the best. Yeah, I don't know, whatever, right? It just helps, man. I really enjoy doing this. I already gathered this data, on my own for just my own personal use. So, like I said, whatever I find cool or entertaining, I just put up on my pages. And whatever I learned in the week, I want to share with you guys via podcasts like this. And I'll try to work on getting some guests on and giving you guys some different insight. But I'm having fun. As long as I'm having fun, I'm willing to do this. And look, if you guys, one last thing, of course, you always got to ask, right? Yeah, if you guys really support the page, you guys support the work I do, then do me a favor, man, and join the Discord. It's $5 a month, and I'm gonna try to work on some things that will give more and more exclusive content to the Discord crowd, and you have access to yours truly right then and there, and the rest of the community. You can build relationships, man. Appreciate you guys. Hope you guys have a good weekend, and see you guys on the next one.